Are you getting very few likes, comments, or shares with your videos? Are you exhausted after your Zoom meetups? It might be your stage presence. If you want people to get excited about watching you and your videos, I'm going to show you how to increase engagement so that you can capture, mesmerize, and keep your audience rapt with attention. Who doesn't love a good story? And you know that telling a story is transformative if people can recall it and act on it in their life. Let it be a fable, a rumor, or an unfolding current event. And if you want to capture the attention of your audience and bewitch the mind with your storytelling, add gestures. Gestures not only add charisma to your storytelling, but help support the visual aspect of your words and implant better recall for the audience. Instead of keeping your arms to the side stiff and risk boring your audience to death, gestures capture the inactive brain of the passive observers to bridge understanding. The same areas of the brain light up and engage as if they were experiencing it with you. The key is to become invisible as the storyteller. Listeners become wrapped in the story. If we're doing a good job, they will forget that we, as the storyteller, is even there. If we fail to make gestures properly and randomly, make awkward throughout our presentations, we won't make the impact with our story as we'd hoped. In today's environment, we have to be especially keen when we're participating on Zoom calls. We have a small window to showcase these gestures. We want to define what is seen above the Zoom meridian, the upper body, right? And bring attention to all that is available to us. Contrary to popular belief, we have a lot to work with. Our upper body. Our hands, our arms, our shoulders, our back, our head, and our face. As storytellers, let's build our own gesture glossary. First, let's talk about the 4 public speaking gestures you can use effectively during your storytelling. Descriptive, suggestive, emphatic, and prompting. 1. Descriptive gestures. Think like a mime. If you couldn't speak and had to use only gestures, what would different words as gestures look like? Ask yourself, what do these words look like to you? These descriptive gestures are what we use to describe something or a situation. To draw comparisons between sizes like large or small, or weight, light or heavy. Of course, gesticulation is different for every culture. Be mindful of who you're gesturing to. See what I did there? Mindful. Let's talk about reenacting with tools. Take real gadgets you use each day and practice gestures. For instance, use a pencil to paper and write your name. Now, put down that pencil and mimic that gesture again. See how that feels? Get a good feel for it. Same thing with a pair of scissors. Cut the paper and notice how the paper feels as you're cutting it. Notice how your dominant hand feels as your fingers grip through the holes, opening and closing the blades through the paper. And timing is key when it comes to connecting with gestures and storytelling. You can take inspiration from gospel singers or ministers. They've learned to be effective storytellers with hand gestures. I mentioned charisma earlier. That's one of their secrets to being charismatic, when coupled with vocal variety and rhythm. When used effectively, deliberate gestures can make you a larger-than-life personality. This is definitely something you want to convey through the use of video or on a Zoom call. As I watch my videos, I notice how a large chunk of energy can evaporate somewhere between my mouth and the camera lens. Gestures help to make up for that. 2. Prompting gesture. When you're crafting your story as a presentation, consider implementing the prompting gesture. Who here has ever played a musical instrument? Raise your hand. This represents the prompting gesture. Prompting encourages the audience to mimic the move as the storyteller. When you're crafting a story as presentation, consider arranging it like a composer. Phrase and emphasize your sentences musically. Stanzas, like the musical bars found on the staff, usually have Italian descriptors like allegro, that means fast, or pianissimo, means soft, or staccato, means short and to the point. 3. Suggestive gestures. Building on our gesture vocabulary can begin with simple words we use every day. For instance, the word all. There are at least two ways that we can make gestures to illustrate this word: hands together or arms outstretched, depending on the point that you want to embellish. To make it more effective is to make sure the hands are apart before making this sweeping gesture. So you can say all together or all together. You can see one is more subtle than the other. Let's take a look at another word, apart. You can separate your hands. You can separate them this way, or you can separate them this way. Whatever is comfortable to you. Here's another word, either or. I like to flip my left hand up and then the right hand out. So either or, left or right. Another word, big. Hands open on each side of the face like sunshine. That can emphasize the word big. Another word, tip, or trick or idea. Make it singular. What I like to do is use my index finger pointing upward. So here's another tip, or one more thing. And counting. For public speaking gestures are sequentially like size and volume, or vocal variety, rhythm, and dance. For the phrase, for instance, I like to keep both my hands with my palms facing towards my body loosely opened. So that way when I make a gesture like the word for instance, I can open up my right hand, my dominant hand, and say, for instance, or you're welcome. Another word is I or me. I usually use the hand to chest. So I'll say, even my schedule has turned belly up during the stay-at-home mandate. Now, let's talk about telling a secret. The key to this is to lean your body towards the lens of the camera. Lower your voice very softly and put your hand next to your mouth like you're cupping it, like you're going to tell a secret. This exaggerates very well on a Zoom call. This really helps to engage the brain, and your brain says, oh wait, I'd better lean in and listen. This sounds like it's going to be really important. 4. Emphatic gestures. In addition to hand gestures, let's review facial gestures. Facial gestures are especially important above the Zoom meridian. As emphatic gestures, these will help reinforce and symbolize the feelings in our story. To attach an appropriate facial expression with a gesture, get acquainted with the most popular emotions for selling a story. Originally there were 7, now there are lucky 13. They are fear, disgust, anger, surprise, happiness, sadness, embarrassment, excitement, contempt, shame, pride, satisfaction, and amusement. Highlighting any of these emotional gestures with both body and face will help validate your words. My favorite when I was a kid was the effusive eye roll coupled with a smirk. This is usually when I'm experiencing a person who's being officious, pushy, or self-important. I haven't done much of this since my mother-in-law died and went to that big martini bar in the sky. My next favorite one is called the Spock. It's the one raised eyebrow to express wisdom and mastery. As in the other day when Andrew and I were holding a bet, I won. And when I did, I gave him the Spock. Now, I can't wait for the salon to open so I can go get my free manicure. Keep these in mind as you build your personal glossary. Lastly, let's talk about venue. Be mindful of your venue. You'll want to adjust the size and type of gestures to the audience or venue. Toastmasters International suggests that the bigger the audience, the bigger the gesture. Conversely, the smaller the screen, those same gestures can be grossly exaggerated. They may work to your benefit as well. If you're starting a new business or you've been established for a while, grab your copy of the Small Business Brand Toolkit to get started. The free Small Business Brand Toolkit is a system that I start my clients out on that contains all the essentials for creating, launching, and growing a successful business. Let's talk about what to avoid. When you're getting jiggy with it, be mindful that you don't get overzealous with your gestures. Avoid extraneous movements like the washing machine when your hands go around and around as you're reaching for the words. It looks a lot like the tumble cycle and you've got an unbalanced load bobbing around. Also avoid repetition. Like filler words like ums, ahs, ands, and so's, gestures can become meaningless and cliche to your personality. Give a wide berth between gestures. Coupling gestures back to back might look like you're trying too hard. An example might be, "Hey folks, one more thing. Don't you want to see what all the fuss is about?" You don't want to look clownish. You want to be deliberate with your gestures as you are with your words. Also, be aware of the silent tics or the nervous habits that sneak up and reveal themselves. Movements like constantly bouncing around in your seat, or bobbing your head, or pushing up your sleeves, scratching your armpit, or digging at your nose. Those can really make an impact and deflate your storytelling, not to mention turn away your audience in a heartbeat. Now, a word about faux pas. When I was a kid and I met someone from another country, the first thing I asked them was to tell me how to curse in their language. Yes, I was that kid. It was a bonus when they showed me hand gestures. Referring back to that moment when I said I was that kid, I feel it's especially important to know the vulgar gestures represented in other countries so that you don't make it. That's when I don't want to be that person. If you don't feel like learning all the vulgarities of other languages, please test your story with others to ensure that you don't commit that faux pas. So, go ahead and talk with your hands. Remember to be deliberate, supportive, and mind your venue. Now, I want to challenge you to use at least 3 gestures and facial expressions in your next video or Zoom meetup. Thank you so much, and keep building.